it'll be a bit redundant, but I don't want to make it sound so over the top and bogged down, but I do like to layer in things and have it just kind of like right there, I don't want it to be so in your face until maybe a nice chorus comes up or something like that. But, that's kind of my gig. I don't think that I'll ever be able to write stuff like Hansi does, but, I'm happy to at least try and make something that sounds good and pleasurable to people's ears.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Would you say back on that, because one of my favorite albums for you vocally is actually the Pyramaze album, Immortal.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were recording that one, I know you recorded that pretty remotely from the band because it was sort of, I guess, almost like a guest vocal thing. Right. What was your input on the arrangements of the vocals in that one?
Yeah, well, that was the cool thing too. That really, I guess I got to say that was really my first, kind of where I was able to spread my wings, because Michael just was like, "Here, man, take it. I trust you," which was amazing to me. That was awesome that he did that. Now he did the lyrics for the majority of the music, for the majority of the songs. One song I was able to do the lyrics and everything for, but everything else, the vocal harmonies, man, he just went, boom, here it is. And that was pretty cool, man. And I tried to, utilize certain things, like obviously like Jonah's keys and stuff like that. I've never been in a situation where there were a lot of keys in the band. Obviously, Iced Earth used some songs with some keys in it and things like that. Typically just pads and stuff like that. But Jonah kind of goes nuts, and that was kind of cool to be able to go against that and utilize that and different things. But that was kind of the first deal where somebody just said, "Here, take it," and so I did, and I tried to communicate with Michael, like, "Hey, man, this is, I know that you have this in this spot, and can we kind of massage this and move this around a little bit, or do this differently, because I'm hearing it this way, and for this part, this is the verse part, this is the chorus part, and this is kind of where I'm seeing the verse, and this is kind of where I'm seeing the chorus, and for the most part, it made sense to do it that way. But as far as like he never said, I want you to do, I want you to sing it this way or whatever. That was all kind of open to interpretation, and that was really cool, and it was a really good opportunity for me, and I think really helped with doing that and with being able to approach the Ashes stuff. And then I was, also able on both the Pyramaze record and with Ashes, able to work with Jim Morris, who I'm extremely comfortable with as a producer. And he's one of those guys, you get stumped and you're like, "Hey man, I got this chorus and I want to do this harmony here, but I'm not exactly sure how to do it." And, he's the theory guy, and he'll sit down there and figure it out, and we'll figure it out together. And we figured out a lot of those cool little things, the little, the rounds, and I can't remember which songs they were in. I think maybe, there's the one, the Mara song, where we did that cool little, we did this kind of crazy little thing. And Jim, that was one that Jim and I worked on together, composing that. And then, there was another piece, and I can't remember which song it was, but that has the kind of the round thing, and we worked on that as well. And I don't know, it's just fun working with. Sit down there and work.
We're still here. Okay, for some reason the audio cut out for a second. That was weird. Slight little connection problems, but.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but anyways, that's really good to hear, because I was kind of wondering, like listening to that album, it sounds more like something that you would do too, like given the context of the music is so different than Iced Earth or anything. But if you compare the vocal style on that one, not just because you're singing on it, but like the lyrics and everything, it all feels very different than the two Pyramaze albums before that too. So I kind of figured you might have some input in that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I did, and there were some things that I told, as far as like lyrically, the way that things were flowing or the way it sounded, and I talked to Michael and I said, man, this is kind of it feels a little bit strange delivering it this way. Can I kind of move the words around or whatever? Because it just didn't sound, it just didn't feel right, where I would run with it. And he was totally cool with that. The last. Oh god, now I'm having trouble remembering the names of the songs. I haven't listened to that record for a while. The one piano tune that's pretty much just me and Jonah for the whole song.
Legacy in a Rhyme.
Legacy in a Rhyme. Thank you. That whole last bit where it kind of cranks in, and I call it the Elton John or the Elton John meets Sabotage bit, where it kind of that was just kind of that. There were no lyrics there. It was just pretty much I took parts and that was because that was kind of where it ended, and I was like, well, it feels like it should go on, like it's building, and it does kind of because it really felt like almost like a Sabotage-y kind of something that Aliva would write, and so he just said, I said, this is my idea. I want to kind of go on with that. I want to expound and take some of your lyrics and expound upon it and go like that. And he was cool with that. And that was really cool to work with as well. Kind of make it bigger, a little bit more vocal. Not that I wasn't trying to hey man, there's not enough vocals in this. I don't want to jam in here. It just sounded right to me. Like there should be that shouldn't have been where the lyrics ended. It needs to go on. So. Anyway.
Yeah, that song particularly was just really powerful, I think, especially because it's kind of just so stripped down, but it's also, it builds up as it goes on and everything like that. It's one of my favorites.
Cool.
But yeah, so I definitely have some, I think Adone's probably asked you about some of this stuff too, but, some singing questions, because I'm also, definitely an aspiring singer and stuff too, but I've noticed, a lot of the techniques and stuff that you do, it doesn't sound like the same stuff a lot of other people are doing, and I try to kind of connect to with my own voice, well, what's this, and a lot of times I end up hurting my throat or something. So how did you kind of go about discovering the tools of the trade in that respect?
Yeah, I'm losing your audio, man.
Oh, let me see.
I think you're back now. You wanna just ask me that again, because I didn't catch that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Just having weird connection problems today. But, yeah, I was just wondering basically how you went about discovering your vocal techniques that you're going to use, and early on, and how to kind of get past that stage of not knowing quite what to do. For myself, I'm trying to do something I'm starting to feel pain here, whatever. How did you kind of figure out how to regulate that?
Yeah, I you know what, man, I don't know other than just doing it and realizing that, hey man, I can't do that because that's painful and that's just wrong. That's just all kind of wrong. Now I did have the benefit of having some instruction. My sister-in-law she is a vocal instructor and soprano and all that other good stuff, but she helped. She definitely helped me figure out kind of how to, deliver my voice. And then I got some other instruction from a guy named Al Cohen out of Tampa, and he kind of helped me with instead of sounding so kind of operatic and like I probably sounded more like in the Burnt Offerings record a little. That kind of went from there is that kind of transition, and you can sort of hear it, I think, from between Burnt Offerings and the Dark Saga, and kind of how I use different things. And then with each record, I try to just do a little bit more, so I can get in that grittier zone a little bit better, feel more comfortable with it. Doesn't sound as I don't want to get that deep stuff and sound like cartoony. You know what I mean? That kind of that deep gravel. I don't want to sound like it's not natural, but obviously my speaking voice, as you can hear, sounds a lot different than the way I deliver a song. People would be talking to me and they would go, that doesn't make sense. You don't sound the way you're speaking the way you sing, which is kind of cool because that's the kind of the idea of it, is that you don't want to be that person. You want to be that kind of that alter ego, and that's kind of what I go for. But do something that sounds natural, doesn't sound too cartoony, but doesn't hurt either. And I think that's that fine line, and I think it's just you got to find that, and you got to be comfortable with delivering it and going, that doesn't really sound like me, but it sounds cool. I guess it's just kind of coming to terms with that. And obviously, if you're doing it and it hurts, then that's just all kind of wrong. I definitely. I didn't realize at the time, but there was when I was working with Al, he kind of explained that, as you're working on both ends, both the high and the low, the better you can go with one, it's going to help you go the other. So the lower you can go with a male voice, the lower you can go and work on those lower, it's also going to help you at the top of your voice as well, which didn't make sense to me at the time, but it does the more that I've worked with it, and it seems to be factual. And a lot of times the hardest spots for me, I can go really really low and do the really low growls, and then I can do the really super ridiculous high stuff. But a lot of times that switch right in between the head voice and falsetto is like that's the toughest part for me to do that transition smoothly. And so that's what I find I work on a lot.
I think it's what really is one of the toughest parts of singing, and that, and also for me, as you were talking about the gritty stuff, I think it's because instinctively people kind of go for a sound that maybe almost is like closer to some sort of like constipated kind of position, like if you try to like force it,
right,
to get the distortion. But did you have to kind of did you start noticing just by experimenting with different like sensations of the vocals, you kind of like, okay, so if I kind of move this way, or if I do this sound, it kind of makes it hurt less, or it makes it sound better?
Well,
or are there any little things like that?
Yeah, and that's the weird thing, because everybody, well, when I was in chorus and things like that, everybody preaches, pushing from the diaphragm, which is, I obviously feel very strongly about that as well. Definitely push from the diaphragm, but also utilize the space in your mouth and on all that, just mouth positions and things like that, like keeping it, if you need to keep it in back to make a certain sound or whatever. Obviously I figured out pretty early on, obviously all your vowel sounds don't sound great if you're trying to push out eyes, all the time, and you're, got that back in your mouth. That's not going to work. You got to make that an ah or something, because people don't typically hear it anyway. They just go, well, he kind of has his own style, but I still understand what he's saying. He doesn't have to enunciate his eyes all the time or whatever, or ease or things like that pull back, which obviously I don't do a lot of. I don't, I try to smooth that stuff right out, because it does, man. It affects, like, if you're trying to phrase something a certain way and you keep getting stuck on those weird vowels, it just hurts. It hurts the whole performance, and it ends up hurting your voice, I think, because you're trying to compensate too much instead of it just smooth, flowing smoothly. So I don't know if that's something also to keep in mind, and just I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I'm certainly not a vocal coach, but all the coaching that I have had and the stuff that I've tried to do myself, and I kind of know, that whole concept of every man's got to know his limitations. And I know that for sure, if you're, clamping down on those weird vowels and things like that, or that always seems to affect how my voice lasts and things like that, and just it just feels weird anyway. So I think that it messes with your confidence.